How's it going, everybody? Welcome to OP Entertainment. I'm Omar Darwish.
I'm Pratik Cherian.
And welcome to our review of episode 8, sadly, almost the last episode of WandaVision. Pratik, we had a lot go on in this episode, but much like last week, something happens at the end that kind of derailed our train of thought, but we're going to try to stay on course today. Spoilers, by the way. We're going to edit that out, put it right in the beginning of the video.
Right, yes.
Let's just start straight from the beginning with Agatha's origin.
Sure. So we get to see her. So I was interested to see how they would do this because in the comics she was like around for the Salem witch trials, and we kind of got that where we see her in colonial garb. It does the show intros with it saying like Salem witch trials or like Salem something, right?
Isn't New Salem something in the comics?
I don't remember.
Okay,
sure,
cool.
Maybe
Our resident nerd. But one thing I have to say about the Agatha kind of absorbing everybody's powers and whatnot, did it not feel kind of like a stage play?
It felt a little. I think what it was all of the dynamic energy that we've seen Catherine Hahn bring to this role before. It was lacking in that scene, and I'm gonna just chalk it up to her being like young and less confident. Okay. So it makes sense that like her origin story, as it were, like she's just like scared and unsure, and it makes sense for being in that far in the past that like that's the way they spoke. I think they're just trying to convey that it's so far in the past.
So she's not a villain in the comics though, right?
No, she's not.
Is this a far cry then from where she originally started then?
So not really. I mean, the origin is pretty much the same. It's very similar. I think the biggest difference is that in this one, instead of being burned or being tried to be burned by villagers, she's being tried by her own like family of witches, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not that far away. And honestly,
it seems like she's pretty evil.
But see, I almost wonder if this doesn't end with her just like helping mentor Wanda. And if that's where the show ends, then it's not going to be different.
I mean, it's not like she's just like killing Wanda or anything. Like there is a chance that she comes out at the end of this with like being on Wanda's side.
We could honestly come out of this with like 0 villains. And maybe 1, maybe 2. I
think, I've got a theory, but I'll save it for the end.
Sure. If anything, I thought that this episode was interesting when it comes to Agatha because we almost get this entire episode. Agatha's our point of view character. Like as we move through the episode, like
Agatha's us.
Agatha's us.
Yeah.
We're asking all the same questions that she is. She's asking. We want her to succeed because we want answers.
Yeah, we want her to figure it out so we can figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of figuring it out, though, do we kind of feel underwhelmed at all by that? Like, because didn't we not kind of say that this was all Wanda from the beginning? And like, doesn't that kind of seem like the obvious answer, or are we still thinking that there might be another player involved? It seems a bit late to introduce another player now, right? Especially when you set up Agatha so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. But like I said, I almost feel like we're coming out of this with 0 villains, and I need a villain now.
It seems like they're setting Agatha up for the villain part. I was hoping for Mephisto, and when she pulled the fly or whatever that was, I was like, oh my God.
Are we actually going to get it? And instead, she just used it to demonstrate her magic.
Yeah, and then she fed it to the rabbit where Mephisto's really living in.
Oh, okay.
No. Honestly, though, jokes aside, I'm really starting to lean away from there being a third party. It seems like it's been Agatha all along. Like, doesn't it seem kind of like it's a bit on the nose, especially because they told us about it last episode, but
yeah, I'm kind of with you here, as much as I'm reluctant to admit it. Honestly, looking at this episode from a high view, this episode, when you look at the broader plot and like what it moves the plot along, it doesn't really. This episode almost kind of like backtracks and gives us the prequel to everything we've seen before.
Yeah.
But in doing that, it gave us all of the, I can't remember if it was last episode or the episode before where I was like, I want more emotion, I want more dwelling on this. Like, it gave us all of that all at once.
So you said something last week that kind of I've been thinking about since you said it, how this episode or last week's episode was kind of like the grief like episode. And you were saying if this all ends with Wanda just like going crazy, that's not really the right message to send.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think they aren't going to let her go that route. I'm starting to think they are going to let her be... They're going to redeem her at the end of this.
Especially after this episode.
I don't want that, though. Like, don't you kind of want her to... I've been enjoying how different this is. I really don't want this to end with everybody teams up to fight a big bad at the end, like every other Marvel thing that's ever been a Marvel.
They did say that it was going to be...
Yeah, Elizabeth Olsen was talking about, like, yeah, I love how this is bringing in new people with the weird ideas that we're throwing out there, but I hope it doesn't lose them once it gets real MCU-y. And
I think that's kind of where we're going. But anyway, but I did think that this episode did a nice thing of like teasing. There's stuff in there for fans who actually like want this show to bring more broader changes to the MCU where it kind of teases it. And let's just kind of go into the next. So the next scene we get when we're kind of go through Wanda's memories. I guess the first scene we get of Wanda's memories is of her and her family in Sokovia.
Yeah.
There's some nice like foreshadowing stuff for WandaVision in the beginning, but I want to skip ahead to kind of the end of that memory where the missile comes in and she and Pietro are trapped under the bed.
Right, and we were led to believe originally from Age of Ultron that the bomb was just defective and that's why it didn't go off, but we're told in this that she actually stopped it from going off.
Which makes Wanda the first MCU character to be born with powers.
Yeah.
Right?
But here's the thing that I was thinking about. Doctor Strange, was he born with powers?
No.
No, right?
No.
So he just learned sorcery, right?
Right.
So can't anybody learn sorcery?
I guess, kind of.
Okay.
Yes.
But she wouldn't have had a teacher or anything like that.
Well, and she didn't at that point,
No.
like clearly. Because I think even Wanda kind of couldn't explain it and kind of suppressed the memory because this whole thing has also been like, as Agatha has been bringing Wanda through her memories, she's been talking about, like, you have to understand what happened in the past. And Wanda's been reluctant because these are all memories that she doesn't want to think about.
Yeah.
And this one, yeah. So we get Wanda disarming the missile, being born with powers, the first MCU mutant.
That's what I'm saying. Are they going to say she's been a mutant this whole time?
If they want to go that way, they could. Like, because that was
Where have the mutants been then? You know, like, I just don't understand... I really don't understand how they're going to bring the mutants into the MCU.
See, but I don't think that matters. To me, it was more like if they brought them in and then tried to retcon it and say that Wanda was a mutant this whole time without addressing the fact that in Age of Ultron we were told that the Mind Stone gave them powers. If they did that without retconning it, and I think all this does is like, oh, here's this obstacle and it sweeps it to the side, but it does it in a very emotionally powerful way.
I feel like it was a very convincing retcon.
Yeah, like, absolutely. I buy it 100%.
Best line in the episode, kind of breaking away from this, when she was like, God, that accent just slips in and
It
out.
just comes and goes, yeah.
Oh my God, if that wasn't every MCU fan for the past 10 years.
Yeah. God, we've had so many, like, we brought that up, like, in this,
so
in reviewing this, where, like, yeah.
But that's what I love about Kevin Feige and the MCU in general. They fix their little problems. They don't just let it slide. They fix them in future movies. So when you watch the whole story, you're like, oh, okay, that's why she's been slipping out of that. Or, you know, there's little, and then there's like little nods to the people who've been following from the beginning. Like, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I think this is not WandaVision related, but I think I heard him give an interview earlier where he was talking about it. And it's like, okay, we want, if you've been following it the whole time, we want you to be able to like pick up on things and appreciate things. And if this is your first entry into the MCU, we want you to be able to appreciate it without having to know anything else. And I think you really see that here. But really in the broader MCU as a whole.
Could you imagine this being your introduction to the MCU?
I'm sure there's people that this is like that.
I honestly feel like, though, if this was your first MCU experience, you'd be almost let down.
Let down by everything.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, at least by the earlier movies, I think you might be at least caught off guard by how different that is from this. But
yeah,
we're kind of getting off track, though. All right, so one great thing about that scene, she's got a little duffel bag or whatever, a suitcase filled with like sitcoms and different shows.
Her dad
does. We got Malcolm in the Middle, Dick Van Dyke Show, and it's like, oh, okay, so you weren't just kind of paying homage to these shows, you legit were taking these shows.
And we see like Wanda and I guess her family, but there's like, I'd call them super fans where like she's like, oh, okay, I want to watch season 2 episode 17, and then her mom's like, oh yeah, this is the one where this and this happens.
Well, I think it's because like what else do they have? Maybe
right,
that's all they have. So they're probably watching these episodes like they probably go through that whole suitcase like once a month, like and then restart it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I do like just in the episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show that they were watching, we can clearly see like
the parallels.
Mm-hmm. You can tie it in so easily, and I like that.
And it honestly made me miss those episodes of WandaVision.
A little bit.
I wanted to go back and watch when everything was simple and happy. Like I wanted to be Wanda and create this universe again. Can't she just have what she wants? Yeah.
Sure.
So next up would be when the Hydra Experiment we see at the end of Age of Ultron.
Right.
Or at the end of Winter Soldier teasing for Age of Ultron.
Right, yeah.
We definitely get a different view on it this time.
Well, because we didn't actually see it. When we saw it earlier in the MCU, we just kind of saw the post-credit with Wanda and Pietro having powers. It was always implied.
We don't see them getting experimented
We never
on.
see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just a tell. And so we actually got shown it. And I almost feel like maybe that's something that they'll touch on later, because we get this powerful experience with Wanda interacting with the Mind Stone.
Later in WandaVision or later in different MCU movie?
Either one. Okay. I don't know. But I do feel like we had this experience of Wanda. She sees what I assume is her future self. We definitely see like a Scarlet Witch,
and it wasn't
appear.
the Halloween one. She had like the cape that it looked dope. I was hoping that we were gonna get a full like premonition of her coming all the way down, but like you just get to see. We should have gone back and paused that. I kind of want to see that again now, see how detailed it was.
I'll watch it later, but
then
when the Hydra security, I guess we'll call them, when they're looking at the cameras, they don't see any of that. They just see her walk forward and then like be crumpled. There's clearly something missing.
Speaking of, well, we're kind of jumping ahead because that's like
jump ahead. Sure.
All right, jump ahead then. Screw it. Did Hayward mess with the footage to make it look like she stole Vision's body in that one episode, or did they cut the camera before you see her walk out?
I think they cut the camera.
Okay.
We just see her like go down to the body. And
did you notice that Hayward was like, no, like let her go down? He kind of had almost like a little smirk to him. I would not be surprised if he's the big bad in all of this, which it's so unsurprising because like we've always known he was bad, but these last few episodes have kind of steered like my view of him as he's trying to do the right thing. He just doesn't know how to go about it, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I've got theories. I'll save it for the end though.
Save it for the end? All right.
Let's keep moving through.
Well, let's go back to this real quick though. The Avengers Headquarters scene.
Yeah.
Man, I miss Vision. Not Vision from WandaVision. I miss real Vision, dude. Like that was so great and it was like so sad.
Well, it was early Vision too, where he's still like learning who he is, what humanity is.
Yeah.
It made me wish that I had seen that scene before, honestly.
Yeah, like it should have been in like Civil War or something.
Yeah, I feel or before that, honestly.
Yeah, prior.
But I feel like if I had seen that, I feel like anybody who had seen that scene would care more about like WandaVision the show going into it.
Maybe.
I just feel, I don't know. Now that
you think we haven't gotten enough of them together prior to this to be invested in them as much?
I think you could say that in episode 1. Now having gone through the WandaVision journey, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. But it just made me wish that I had more time with these characters.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and seeing that scene, and it was a really well done scene, honestly.
It was. If they don't get Emmy noms for this, like...
Yeah, just nominate the entire cast.
Just nominate the entire cast, like Agatha, Wanda, and Vision. There you go. Bang. That'd be a crazy Emmy card to look at, man. I have trouble with this episode because of the lack of Pietro and the lack of explanation for Pietro. What did they... do? Like, are we done with him now? He's still out there?
So we got that in the beginning where Agatha was like, oh, like I couldn't use, because she's like explaining the different spells that she's using, and she's kind of showing Wanda spells that Wanda was using to try to demonstrate that Wanda doesn't even know how to use magic and is somehow doing stuff that's well beyond.
Because she's the Scarlet Witch from lore or something.
Sure, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. But we got like a very, very super fast like Pietro explanation, and I'm sure I'll go back and watch the episode and like it'll click maybe, but...
I'm starting to lean almost towards your side of maybe they just cast Evan Peters for shock value, which...
For a fun cameo. Yes.
But I don't know. Like, leave a comment down below. I want to know what you guys think. Would you be okay with that? Like, doesn't that seem like kind of a cop-out or like some cheap... Kind of seems like a cheap shot. It would be like essentially like casting Andrew Garfield to come back in a Spider-Man movie and then like he's just playing the mailman, but he's dressed as Spider-Man. Like, because this Evan Peters Quicksilver...
If they did that with Tobey Maguire, I would die laughing. I would be the happiest person alive.
He's Uncle Ben, but he's wearing the Sam Raimi Spider-Man suit. I'm just going to stop speculating about Quicksilver at this point.
Please do.
I'm just gonna take the L on it and just be disappointed that
Please do.
They just cast Evan Peters for no reason.
Fun cameo value.
Why not just bring Aaron Taylor Johnson? Then that'd be a fun enough cameo. He's fun. They're both kick-ass.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't make the then it wouldn't be the explanation that we want. So, all right, post credit, go.
Okay. First question: Is this going to be a Logan situation where it's X-23 versus X-20? You know, like X-24, whatever they call them. I'm hoping that he really did bring Vision back. I'm hoping this is Vision.
So the fact that his eyes are like blue and he like the few scenes we see of him, he doesn't seem to have any personality, seems to me to say that he won't. Also, I promised myself I wouldn't keep saying in the comics, but in the comics, and this is like West Coast Avengers, so it's been a long time since I've read this, but we do get a white Vision in that, and the explanation for him being white as opposed to having the color is that he doesn't have like the soul and emotions of real Vision. And that's why he was white. That's why he doesn't have any color. He's just like blank because he's emotionless. And I almost wonder if this isn't teasing that like explanation in more ways than one. Like if it's not more than the color, if we are really going to get like a more robotic, because Hayward views Vision as a weapon. He even says that. And I almost wonder if this Vision, however they brought him back, if he's not also going to reflect that and be more robotic and more like a weapon than a person.
The point of Vision, though, I feel like in these movies and maybe just in general, is like the concept of does he have a soul or doesn't he? If you just establish right off the bat he doesn't have a soul, then what's the fun in Vision? You know what I mean?
So I kind of wonder if... I almost wonder if we're not going to get like a reverse of the WandaVision dynamic where in the earlier scenes that we see, like it's almost like Agatha talks about like Vision bringing Wanda in from the darkness. If we're not going to get at the end of this, this might be the way that they do of bringing Vision back into the MCU without having to like, he's alive now. Like,
but this would be a completely different Vision then, right?
A brand new Vision like you talked about earlier.
Right.
But I almost wonder, so two explanations. One, however the Vision in Westview was created, if you can't merge the two, that would make sense. Or maybe we do get a Vision that realizes that he is still human, but maybe like has to start from scratch as far as like emotions. And now Wanda's the emotionally mature one, and Vision is the less mature one. Yeah. And we get that relationship being flipped. And I don't think that would be bad either.
I like
it would make sense.
I like the merging the two, because did you notice when she's conjuring up the new Vision, he wasn't like red like everything else she was conjuring up. He was yellow. So maybe she was I'm starting to lean towards like maybe she has the stone like in her, or at least a part of the stone in her, and she's able to use that to give it to bring Vision back essentially.
Maybe.
That would be great if they phase together.
I have a question.
Okay.
We had talked earlier about how Paul Bettany had talked about how like there's this actor he's always wanted to work with, and the scenes between him and this actor are like electric and they're fireworks. Was he talking about himself?
Dude,
would that the whole time he would have never worked with himself. He would be complimenting his own acting by talking about how like, oh, it's electric, it's fireworks, like maybe the clash between them, like that's what he's referencing. I would find that really funny.
I'm on that team now. That's probably what's gonna happen. That's a good theory. That's a good theory. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
I love it. That would be disappointing, but also so Paul Bettany funny.
It's so Paul Bettany. Yeah. It'd be great. I kind of hope that's it.
That's the only thing on my mind now. Oh man.
But I do have another theory about if they were to bring in somebody else, somebody who could show up.
You mean other than Mephisto and the Rabbit?
Other than Mephisto. What if Loki shows up in this?
Well, he's dead right now. Well, he can top through time periods because of...
Yeah, we don't know. I'm not going to go into like how would Loki show up.
Has Paul Bettany worked with him?
No, I don't think so. Because Vision wasn't around for the first Avengers movie. And then obviously Vision isn't in any of like the Thor movies or anything like that.
Age of Ultron, no.
Yeah. They've never worked together. And I did find it interesting, like when in that first Sokovian scene when they're trying to explain like what hijinks are, or what shenanigans. Shenanigans, what they are. And they're like, oh, they're like mischief, which Loki got a mischief. We know he can take other people's forms. Like we definitely see Hayward like acting weird. It almost feels like Hayward's influencing Wanda in that scene where she goes down there. Like,
like maybe you're thinking maybe Hayward is Loki.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or at the very least, like pushing maybe the Hayward in that that scene was Loki. Maybe not
I
the entire
feel
time.
like the MCU has been trying to push Loki away from being a bad guy, though, and like that just seems like backtracking to put him in those shoes right now.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
Maybe. I wouldn't. I don't know. I still feel like I need to get something else.
You know what makes no sense to me still?
Sure.
You can explain Thor is off-world. You can say Iron Man's dead, Cap is somewhere else, all this stuff, right, in the past. Doctor Strange is supposed to be the protector of our reality. He noticed in Ragnarok when Loki stepped foot on Earth. Like 2 minutes after he was there. There's like 2 minutes of Loki being on Earth before Doctor Strange pulls up on him. So how does he not know about all of this?
If Agatha could sense it from wherever she was.
Exactly. So are we saying Agatha's stronger than Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, the only, like, you know what I mean? Unless he's held captive. Maybe he's the rabbit. Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, if he's held captive or something else is keeping him occupied, maybe.
I just don't like it. I just don't like that
like
he's not. That's the one, and you know this is an issue with most of the Marvel movies. Where was this hero? But Doctor Strange should be there for this.
I feel like, given that this ties into that, we'll get an explanation.
Yeah, I'm honestly thinking like there's almost like 100% chance he's showing up in this, or else it just won't make sense. Unless we get the explanation in Doctor Strange too, like, sorry, I was trapped in a time loop or something. But
who knows?
All right. Any other crazy theories?
No, I'm kind of ready to score it and go rewatch the episode later.
Other than, I'm still thinking maybe somebody is influencing Agatha, because I'm hoping she comes out, shiny on the other end of this. But
at the very least, I kind of hope she comes out at a point where we can get more of her later, because she's a fun character and I'd like to keep her around.
Although they really seem to be hinting that she's just trying to suck the magic out of Wanda, because that commercial where you see the kid like slowly die, it looks like he's been getting the magic sucked out of him, just like the people in the beginning, the women in the scene in the beginning. They look
a little bit,
the same,
but I still feel like in this episode, as much as we got like her origin and everything else, we never get we never get the why. We don't understand, like, Agatha comes across like she's just trying to understand how and why Wanda's doing what she's doing, and not so much like she actually has a motive for it.
It seems to me like she wants to know how to do it so she can do it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's an explanation, but we never outright get it.
I don't understand how they're going to wrap this up next week, dude. What? Like,
I'm with you. It's got to be
like 2 hours, man.
No.
It's got to be.
They can do it in an hour.
They could do it in an hour, but if it's less than like an hour and a half, like, I don't see how.
If it's less than 40 minutes, I think I'm going to feel
if it's less than 40 minutes, there better be. That's going to be the quickest moving episode of any show ever.
Right.
Oh, man.
But for this one, do you want to go ahead and score it?
I think you go ahead. I'm still kind of...
Okay. I think I'm going to give this one a 10, to be quite honest.
You think you're going to give this one a 10?
I think it did a great job of retconning things that we've seen, making me, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of flashback episodes as a whole, and this one, I really felt it the entire time. I enjoyed it. I would say that it didn't move the plot along. Like, when we were watching it, I'm like, I might give this a 9 because it didn't really do anything, and then we got the end of it, and it's like, oh, okay, never mind. I don't know.
I would be in that same ballpark with you with a 10 if... I'll say this. This is the best exposition dump episode of anything I've ever seen. Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
But it was still an exposition dump, and that's a fault of the show, because if this was a little bit longer or more episodes, they could stretch that out throughout the epissodes, and it felt like they had to put it all in this one episode.
Well, because I think, yes, it was a lot of explanation as for the hows, but I really think the important thing was Wanda's emotional state and Wanda's emotions through it, and understanding those emotions. And to me, that's what made this episode so great, was not so much like, oh, we get the explanation, but it's more like we understand Wanda. We feel for Wanda. And I think the episode did a great job of taking us through, like, because we really just went through Wanda's life, and I think it did a great job of bringing us through Wanda's life in that way, and that's why I rate it so highly.
But what I mean is, like, there's scenes where she's just driving or walking and contemplating, and those scenes in a regular movie or something would be that long, and they would have time to flesh that out. But I just feel like there's so much they have to accomplish from now to the end, that while those scenes are going on, I'm like, okay, come on. Like, we get it. But she's sad.
Is that because you know that this is only going to be 30 minutes or 35 or 40 minutes?
It's because...
Is the time playing in your head? Because
I think so. That's also a factor of a movie. That just goes with, like, pacing and everything. I know it's a show, but this is essentially a 6-hour Marvel movie just split up. and it just feels like maybe I don't see a way of them not having to rush this ending. Unless it's 2 hours, I don't see a way.
45 minutes.
And you think it's gonna be 45 minutes?
I think 45 minutes they can get the job done.
I think you're probably right. It will be 45 minutes, and they could get the job done, but they're gonna be rushing, dude.
See,
it seems like there's way too many. We're not gonna get. I feel like we're not gonna get every answer we want.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Isn't that a little bit frustrating?
I mean, we didn't even get every answer we wanted out of like Endgame, for example.
Well, we did for the most part, but
in like creator interviews afterwards.
But you're right though. Endgame though has the excuse of that's cutting off point. Like,
it's also like 3 hours long.
Yeah,
and we still did.
This is 6. like I don't know. I feel like if they had more time to flesh this stuff out, maybe some of these scenes would have a little bit more weight. And we'd have some time to breathe with some of these.
But
moments.
see, I feel like that's also like the brilliance of TV, and like we have these gaps. So we have this week to process this episode, and I think that also does a good service.
Well,
but if you have to put a number on it, what number would you put on the episode? Because I don't think you did.
I'm thinking probably about a 9.
A 9?
Yeah, right around 9.
That's fair.
It would be perfect for me because like I said, that exposition was an exposition dump, but it was like great. Like it flew by for me. Like it was fun too, and a lot of great lines. I just can't help but feel like, man, maybe there's an episode 10 or something. Like like maybe there is actually going to be 2 more episodes. Like it just doesn't feel like this is coming to an end. And maybe that's just that's a sign of a good show. We don't want it to end.
Yeah.
I'm really gonna miss doing these, man, just like the Mandalorian ones, but. We've got one more week of this, guys, so tune in next week. You want to take us out? Sure.
Tune in next week, guys, where we cover the finale that I'm sure is going to be great of WandaVision.
When they bring in all the X-Men.
Right. When they tie it into when they tie it into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'll never get the name of that show right.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Bucky should have got the shield. All right, see you guys.
White power.
Dude, we're taking that part out.